The massive chamber of Nexus Prime Station floated in the void between star systems, a monument to galactic cooperation built by 47 different alien species over 3,000 years. Inside its gleaming halls, representatives from across the galaxy gathered for what they considered routine business. The Galactic Council had governed known space for millennia, settling disputes, managing trade routes, and maintaining what they called civilized order among the stars. Ambassador Chen Wei stood at the human podium, her dark suit a stark contrast to the elaborate robes and biological displays of the other delegates. She had served Earth for 15 years in this place, watching as the Council dismissed human concerns again and again. Today would be different. Today, everything would change. The Vrex Dominion representative rose from his seat, his scaled body towering over most other delegates. Commander Zrathis was a veteran of a dozen minor conflicts, his red scales marked with ceremonial scars that spoke of his military achievements. He addressed the Council with the confidence of someone who had never truly been challenged. The human colony at Proxima Centauri occupies space that rightfully belongs to the Vrex expansion sphere, Zrathis declared, his voice rumbling through the translation systems. We have made reasonable offers for the humans to relocate. They have refused. The Dominion requires this territory for our growing population. Chen activated her podium display, showing legal documents and settlement records. Earth established Proxima Station 73 years ago, long before any Vrex claim was filed. Over 200,000 human civilians live there. It is our home, recognized under Council Charter 2298. A ripple of what might have been laughter moved through some of the alien delegates. The Kalesh representative, a floating crystalline being, spoke next. Humanity has been part of the Council community for only 80 years. Perhaps you do not understand how territorial negotiations work among established species. We understand perfectly, Chen replied, keeping her voice level, despite the anger building in her chest. We understand that our rights under Council law should be the same as any other species. Zrathis bared his teeth in what the Vrex considered a smile. Humanity achieved faster than light travel through fortunate accident, not through true scientific advancement. You are children playing in a galaxy you do not comprehend. The Vrex have been spacefaring for 18,000 years. We know how these matters are properly resolved. Chen looked around the chamber, seeing the same dismissive attitude on almost every alien face. The Council had never taken humanity seriously. Humans were the newcomers, the primitives, the lucky apes who stumbled into FTL technology and somehow survived long enough to petition for Council membership. If the Vrex attack Proxima Station, it will be an act of war against Earth, Chen said clearly. We will respond accordingly. This time the laughter was open. Even Wisdom Keeper Tharn, the usually neutral mediator, seemed amused. The ancient being's 4 eyes blinked slowly as he spoke. Young Ambassador, wars between Council species are carefully managed affairs with strict protocols. Your species lacks the understanding of how such conflicts are conducted. The Vrex would easily overwhelm any human military response. Zrathis crossed his massive arms. The Dominion will proceed with colonization of the Proxima region within 1 standard week. If human civilians remain, they do so at their own risk. The Council has heard Earth's objections and found them without merit. This matter is closed. Chen felt her fingernails dig into her palms. She had expected this outcome, but experiencing it still felt like a physical blow. Let the record show that Earth strongly protests this decision and holds the Council responsible for whatever follows. Your protest is noted, Tharn said with barely concealed boredom. Next matter of business. Chen walked out of the chamber with her head high, but inside she was screaming. Behind her she heard Zrathis tell another delegate, the humans will learn their place soon enough. A small demonstration of Vrex military power should be sufficient education. 6 days later, the demonstration came. Vrex warships appeared at Proxima Station without warning. There was no formal declaration of war, no chance for evacuation, no adherence to the very protocols they claimed were so important. The Vrex simply opened fire on the civilian station with their plasma cannons. The shields of Proxima Station were designed for asteroid protection, not military assault. They failed within minutes. The station's emergency messages reached Earth just as the first sections began to explode, venting atmosphere and people into the cold vacuum of space. Chen was in her quarters on Nexus Prime when the news came through. She watched the live feed from the few cameras that remained operational, seeing the sections of the station where she had visited just months ago being systematically destroyed, the residential dome where children played in Earth-normal gravity, the agricultural rings where farmers grew real vegetables under artificial sunlight, the medical center where her friend's daughter had been born 3 years ago. All of it was burning. The final death toll came in over the next day. 206,000 civilians dead. Another 40,000 injured or missing. The Vrex had been thorough. Chen requested an emergency council session. It took them 3 days to agree to meet. When she finally stood at the human podium again, she saw no remorse in the alien faces before her, only calculation, mild concern about precedent, and in some cases approval. Zarathis stood proudly at his podium. The Dominion regrets the loss of life at Proxima. However, the humans were warned. They chose to remain in disputed territory. The responsibility for this tragedy lies with Earth's stubbornness, not with Vrex military necessity. Tragedy? Chen's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. You murdered over 200,000 civilians. You attacked without formal declaration. You violated every protocol you claimed to hold sacred. The Vrex acted within their rights as a senior council species. The Kalesh representative interjected. Humanity's outrage is understandable but misplaced. This is how territorial disputes are sometimes resolved when lesser species refuse reasonable accommodation. Chen pulled out a data tablet and placed it on her podium. Earth has prepared a formal response to this attack. We demand immediate and substantial reparations. We demand the Vrex withdraw all claims to the Proxima region. We demand that Commander Zarathis and his fleet commanders be turned over to human justice for trial as war criminals. The Council has 72 hours to meet these demands. The chamber erupted in noise. Dozens of species spoke at once, their translation systems creating a chaotic symphony of voices. Wisdom Keeper Tharn raised his central appendage for silence. Ambassador Chen, you cannot be serious. The Council does not respond to ultimatums from junior species. If Earth is dissatisfied with how this matter was handled, you may file a formal complaint through proper channels. The process typically takes 3 to 5 standard years. Chen looked directly at the ancient mediator. Earth is done with proper channels. Earth is done being dismissed and patronized. Earth is done watching our people die while you debate procedures. You have 72 hours. After that, we will collect what we are owed ourselves. She picked up her tablet and walked toward the exit. Behind her, she heard Zarathis laughing. The humans think to threaten the Vrex Dominion? Let them try. It will be educational for the other primitive species to watch humanity learn humility. Chen didn't look back. She had delivered Earth's message. What the Council didn't know, what none of them suspected, was that humanity had been preparing for this moment since the day they joined the Council. The galaxy was about to discover that underestimating humans was a fatal mistake. The 72-hour countdown began. Back on Earth, in secure military facilities hidden beneath mountains and ocean trenches, Admiral Sarah Okonkwo received the signal. The carefully worded message contained just 2 words that meant everything. Execute authorization. The war machine of humanity, hidden and developed in secret for 8 decades, began to wake up. The Galactic Council had no idea what was coming. They were about to find out exactly what happens when you push humans too far. The 72 hours passed in tense silence. The Galactic Council issued no response to Earth's demands. In the grand chambers of Nexus Prime, alien delegates went about their business as usual, convinced that humanity's ultimatum was nothing more than an emotional outburst from a grieving species. They expected Earth to eventually accept reality and submit a proper complaint through official channels. They were catastrophically wrong. Admiral Sarah Okonkwo stood in the command center buried 3 kilometers beneath the Atlantic Ocean. The facility had been constructed over 40 years, hidden from orbital surveillance by sophisticated interference technology, reverse-engineered from 6 different alien species. Around her, hundreds of officers monitored screens showing tactical data from across human-controlled space. Status report, Okonkwo commanded. All fleet elements report ready, Admiral, her tactical officer replied. Terra Defense Fleet is at full combat readiness. Colonial defense groups have assumed protective positions. Strike packages are prepared and awaiting your authorization. Okonkwo looked at the countdown timer. 72 hours and 13 minutes had elapsed since Ambassador Chen delivered Earth's ultimatum. The Council's silence was their answer. Send the activation codes. Execute Operation Righteous Fury. Across human space, the response was immediate. On Luna, massive hangar doors built into crater walls slid open, revealing ship berths that had been constructed in absolute secrecy. On Mars, beneath the surface of Valles Marineris, entire naval squadrons emerged from underground facilities. In the asteroid belt, ships that had been disguised as mining vessels shed their false exteriors and activated military-grade systems. The Terra Defense Fleet consisted of 300 warships, each one incorporating technologies that the Galactic Council believed humanity was incapable of developing. The Council had made a fatal error in their assessment. They assumed human technology had barely advanced beyond basic FTL drives. They were wrong. For 80 years, humanity had been learning. Every trade negotiation gave human scientists access to new technologies to study. Every diplomatic exchange provided intelligence on alien capabilities. Every time the Council dismissed human concerns, human engineers worked harder to ensure Earth would never be helpless again. Captain Marcus Rivera commanded the TDF Retribution, a battlecruiser that stretched nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern. His ship mounted fusion plasma hybrid drives that human physicists had developed by combining Earth fusion technology with stolen Vrex plasma propulsion systems. The result was a drive system 40% faster than anything the Virex possessed. All stations report ready, Captain, his executive officer announced. Marcus studied the tactical display. His ship was part of Strike Group Alpha, 12 battlecruisers and 36 escort frigates. Their target was the Vrex Naval Yard at Kepler 442, the facility where the ships that destroyed Proxima Station had been built. Helm, initiate FTL jump on the Admiral's mark, Marcus ordered. Throughout human space, 300 warships waited for the same signal. Admiral Okonkwo took a breath and pressed her authorization key. All ships, you are weapons-free. Make them pay. The Terra Defense Fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel, leaving only brief distortions in space-time to mark their departure. Within the hour, they would arrive at 12 different Vrex systems simultaneously. The Galactic Council was about to learn what humanity had been preparing for all these years. The Vrex were the 4th most powerful military force in the galaxy. Their fleets had conquered 17 species over their long history. They practiced war as an art form, with elaborate honor codes and ritualized combat that their warriors trained for from birth. They were confident, experienced, and completely unprepared for what humanity brought to the fight. Strike Group Alpha emerged from FTL at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Marcus immediately saw the Vrex response forming. 3 battleships and a dozen smaller vessels were moving to intercept, their movements following standard Vrex fleet doctrine that prioritized formation integrity and mutual support. They're broadcasting on Council diplomatic channels, his communications officer reported. They're demanding we identify ourselves and state our intentions according to galactic warfare protocols. Marcus had read those protocols. They required formal declarations, scheduled engagements, and opportunities for honorable surrender. They were designed for a civilization that had forgotten what real war looked like. No response. Weapons target the shipyard infrastructure. Helm evasive pattern Delta. Let's show them something new. The Retribution accelerated past the Virex fleet at speeds that clearly shocked the alien commanders. Human ships didn't stop to engage in the expected formation battle. Instead, they scattered, using superior speed and maneuverability to avoid the Vrex vessels entirely. The aliens tried to adjust, breaking formation to pursue, but they were too slow. Marcus watched his tactical display as human frigates launched kinetic bombardment weapons at the shipyard. These weren't sophisticated missiles with AI guidance systems. They were simple tungsten rods accelerated to relativistic speeds. The Vrex point defense systems, designed to intercept high-tech weapons, couldn't track the simple projectiles effectively. The rods punched through the shipyards, shields, and tore into the construction berths with devastating kinetic energy. Secondary explosions bloomed across the facility as fusion reactors overloaded and antimatter containment failed. Within minutes, the shipyard that had taken the Vrex decades to build was reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Vrex battleships are attempting to engage, the tactical officer reported. They're broadcasting demands for honorable combat. Marcus felt no satisfaction, only cold determination. Launch torpedo spread and continue evasion. Target their sensor arrays and propulsion systems. We're not here for honor duels. Human torpedoes guided by AI systems that the Council had banned millennia ago, but humanity had perfected, streaked toward the Vrex ships. The alien vessels tried to implement their defensive protocols, but they were designed for predictable attacks following galactic warfare conventions. The human weapons adapted in real time, exploiting weaknesses in shield harmonics that human intelligence had identified years ago. The first Vrex battleship lost engine power and began drifting. The second took critical damage to its command structure. The third managed to fire its main plasma cannons, but the Retribution's shields held. Human defensive technology had also improved dramatically. "Sir, receiving reports from other strike groups," the communications officer said. "All 12 Vrex systems are under simultaneous attack. The Vrex fleet is in complete disarray." Marcus allowed himself a grim smile. The Galactic Council thought humans were primitive. They were about to learn the difference between being primitive and being underestimated. At Nexus Prime, alarm signals finally penetrated the Council's complacency. Intelligence reports flooded in from across Vrex space. Human fleets were systematically destroying military infrastructure with efficiency that shocked the alien observers. The Vrex were losing ships at an alarming rate, unable to counter tactics that ignored all accepted rules of galactic warfare. Commander Zrathis stood in the council chamber, his scales pale with shock. "This is impossible. Our intelligence said humanity possessed less than 50 capital ships. They're attacking with hundreds. They're using technologies they shouldn't have." Ambassador Chen sat calmly at the human podium. She had returned to Nexus Prime specifically to watch the Council's reaction. Earth asked for justice. You refused. Now we're taking it ourselves. The Kalesh representative's crystalline structure vibrated with agitation. The humans are using artificial intelligence in combat systems. This is forbidden by Council law. It has been banned for 10,000 years after the Machine Wars. Chen's expression didn't change. Earth never agreed to that ban. We weren't consulted when those laws were made. We were dismissed as too primitive to have opinions. Perhaps you should have included us in your decision-making. Wisdom Keeper Tharn activated the emergency protocols. The Council demands an immediate ceasefire. Humanity must withdraw its forces and submit to Council arbitration. No, Chen said simply. The time for Council arbitration was before 200,000 civilians died. That moment has passed. Earth will continue military operations until our demands are met in full. Zrathis slammed his clawed hand on his podium. The Dominion will crush this human rebellion. We will mobilize our full fleet. You have made a fatal error. Chen stood and looked directly at the Vrex commander. You murdered our children. You laughed about it in this chamber. Now you're learning what it costs to make humanity angry. We studied you for 80 years. We know where your worlds are. We know where your colonies are. We know where your leaders live. Every Vrex system is within range of human weapons right now. The chamber fell silent. For the first time, the delegates understood that something fundamental had changed. Humanity wasn't asking for permission anymore. They weren't begging for justice. They were taking it, and they had the capability to do so. On her command screen, hidden from the Council's view, Chen watched the tactical reports. Strike Group Beta had just destroyed the Vrex military academy at Zeta Reticuli. Strike Group Gamma had disabled the Vrex fleet headquarters. The war entered its second week, and the Vrex Dominion was reeling. Reports from across their territory painted a picture of systematic military collapse that shocked not just the Vrex, but every species in the Galactic Council. Humanity was demonstrating a capacity for organized violence that the civilized galaxy had forgotten could exist. Lieutenant Sarah Park crouched behind a blast barrier on Vrex Station Theta 9, a military outpost orbiting the fourth planet of the Tau Ceti system. Her powered armor sensors detected 17 Vrex defenders in the corridor ahead, their heat signatures visible through the walls. Behind her, her squad of 30 Marines waited for her signal. Remember your training, Sarah said over the squad channel. These are military targets in a legitimate military installation. Rules of engagement apply. No civilian casualties. The armor enhanced her strength by a factor of 20 and provided personal shielding adapted from 4 different alien technologies. The weapon she carried was a human design that combined traditional kinetic ammunition with plasma acceleration. It hit harder than almost anything the Vrex possessed. Breaching in 3, 2, 1, Sarah counted down. then triggered the explosive charge on the bulkhead door. The corridor filled with smoke and debris. Her armor's sensors cut through it easily, highlighting the Vrex defenders in her tactical display. The fight was brief and brutal. Vrex warriors were individually stronger than humans, but human armor equalized that advantage. Vrex weapons were powerful, but human shields were designed specifically to counter them, and Vrex tactical doctrine assumed enemies would fight honorably. Sarah's squad didn't fight honorably. They fought to win. Within 2 minutes, the corridor was secure. The surviving Vrex had retreated deeper into the station. Sarah's combat AI was already mapping their fallback positions and suggesting optimal assault routes. The armor made her feel invincible, though she knew better. Good Marines had died taking the station. But the mission would succeed. "Squad leaders report," came the voice of Major Chen over the command channel. Not Ambassador Chen's relative. Just another of the thousands of Chens serving in Earth's military. "We have control of sectors 1 through 7. Meeting heavier resistance in the command center. They're broadcasting surrender requests on Council diplomatic channels." Sarah checked her tactical map. The Vrex were asking for terms according to galactic warfare protocols, probably expecting a negotiated withdrawal with honor intact. That wasn't how this worked. "Broadcast response on all channels," Major Chen ordered. Vrex defenders have 2 options. Abandon the station via evacuation craft within 20 minutes or remain and face elimination. There will be no negotiated surrender. There will be no prisoner exchange. This is retaliation, not an honor duel. The words were harsh, but Sarah understood their necessity. The Galactic Council had spent millennia developing elaborate rules for civilized warfare. Humanity was showing them what uncivilized warfare looked like. It was a lesson that needed to be clear and unmistakable. 15 minutes later, evacuation craft began launching from Vrex Station Theta 9. Sarah watched them go, glad that the Vrex had chosen survival. Once the last craft was clear, human engineers placed demolition charges throughout the station's critical systems. 30 minutes after that, the entire facility exploded in a brilliant flash visible from the planet below. One more Vrex military asset removed from the board. One more reminder that attacking human civilians carried consequences. Across 12 Vrex systems, similar operations were occurring simultaneously. Human forces weren't occupying territory. They weren't trying to conquer Vrex worlds. They were systematically destroying the Dominion's capacity to wage war. Shipyards burned. Orbital platforms became debris fields. Supply depots were reduced to expanding clouds of gas. The Vrex fleet tried to respond, but human tactics confounded their every move. When Vrex battlegroups concentrated to defend key systems, human forces simply bypassed them and hit undefended targets. When the Vrex dispersed to cover more territory, human ships with superior speed picked them apart in small engagements. The AI-assisted tactical networks that humanity employed allowed for coordination that the Vrex couldn't match. Most devastating was humanity's willingness to abandon traditional fleet battle doctrine entirely. Vrex commanders expected ship-to-ship combat with clear engagement ranges and honorable exchanges of fire. Instead, human vessels would accelerate to maximum speed, launch torpedo spreads from extreme range, and retreat before the Vrex could respond. The aliens would chase, only to find themselves led into ambushes or drawn away from systems they needed to defend. It was frustrating, dishonorable, and brutally effective. Admiral Okonkwo monitored the campaign from Earth's command center, watching data streams from hundreds of sources. Each update brought news of another success, another Vrex facility destroyed, another enemy fleet damaged or dispersed. But she took no joy in the destruction. This wasn't a conquest, it was a lesson. "Admiral, we're receiving communication requests from 17 different council species," her communications officer reported. "They're asking us to negotiate. The Theln Collective is offering to mediate. The Kalish want to discuss terms. Even the sovereign minds are suggesting arbitration." "Ignore them," Okonkwo ordered. "We stated our demands clearly. Until those demands are met, operations continue." What the Council was slowly beginning to understand was that humanity had studied their enemies thoroughly. Vrex military culture emphasized honor, tradition, and courage in battle. Their warriors were trained from childhood to face death bravely in glorious combat. But human intelligence had identified a critical weakness in this mindset. The Virex couldn't comprehend an enemy that simply refused to engage in glorious combat. Human forces avoided heroic battles. They destroyed infrastructure from long range. They ambushed supply convoys in FTL transit, something that galactic warfare protocols considered deeply dishonorable, because ships in FTL couldn't defend themselves effectively. They used automated weapon systems that attacked without mercy or honor. The Vrex had built their entire military doctrine around the concept of honorable warriors meeting an honorable battle. Humanity was systematically denying them that battle, and the psychological effect was devastating. Commander Zarathus addressed the Galactic Council in emergency session, his scales now noticeably darker with stress. The humans are not fighting a proper war. They strike from shadows. They refuse direct engagement. They destroy infrastructure but avoid fleet confrontations when we offer them. This is not how civilized species conduct military operations. Ambassador Chen remained seated at the human podium, her expression neutral. Earth is not fighting a war. We are executing a punitive expedition. You destroyed a civilian station with 200,000 people. We are removing your capacity to do that again. The Dominion demands council intervention, Zarathus continued. The humans must be stopped. They are using banned technologies. They are violating every protocol of galactic warfare. They are winning, Chen interrupted. The word you're looking for is winning. The Vrex are losing because you assumed we would fight according to your rules. We have our own rules, Commander. You should have considered that before you murdered our civilians. The Kalesh representative attempted diplomacy. Surely Earth has made its point. Your military capability is clearly greater than anticipated. The Council acknowledges this. But continued destruction serves no purpose. Let us negotiate a settlement that addresses your grievances while allowing the Vrex to maintain their dignity. No, Chen said flatly. Our demands were clear. Full reparations for Proxima Station, complete Vrex withdrawal from the Proxima region, war crimes trials for Commander Zarathus and his fleet commanders. Until those demands are met, Admiral Okonkwo has authorization to continue operations indefinitely. Wisdom Keeper Tharn activated his podium display, showing casualty figures. In 2 weeks of combat, humanity has destroyed 42% of the Vrex military infrastructure. Over 15,000 Vrex military personnel are dead. 30,000 are wounded. Economic damage exceeds 2 trillion credits. Surely this is sufficient retaliation for Proxima. Chen stood and activated her own display. It showed images from Proxima Station, bodies floating in space, children's toys drifting among the debris, the burned remnants of what had been homes, schools, parks. 206,000 civilians, Wisdom Keeper. Men, women, children, elderly. They weren't soldiers. They weren't military targets. They were families. And the Vrex killed them without warning, without mercy, without consequence. Until our demands are met, the consequences continue. She paused, making eye contact with every delegate in the chamber. Let me make something absolutely clear to this council. Earth does not want war with the galaxy. We do not seek conquest. We do not desire domination. But we will never ever allow our people to be slaughtered without response. If that makes us uncivilized by your standards, we accept that judgment. Better to be uncivilized and alive than civilized and extinct. The session ended without resolution. The Vrex refused to accept human demands, still believing they could somehow reverse their military losses. The council continued to debate and discuss, falling back on bureaucratic procedures that had served them for millennia. The emergency council session had been running for 6 straight hours and tensions were reaching a breaking point. Delegates from 47 species crowded the chamber, their voices overlapping through translation systems as they argued about the human problem. Outside the station's viewing ports, the stars looked peaceful and distant, oblivious to the crisis unfolding within. Wisdom Keeper Tharn called for order repeatedly, his 4 eyes blinking with exhaustion. At 10,000 years old, he had seen countless conflicts and crises, but nothing quite like this. We must reach consensus, he insisted. The situation grows more unstable by the hour. The Theln Collective representative, a being that resembled a cluster of luminous jellyfish floating in a containment sphere, spoke with surprising firmness. Perhaps consensus is not what we need. Perhaps we need to accept reality. The humans have proven themselves militarily capable. Their demands are not unreasonable. The Vrex attacked without provocation. Why are we even debating this? Several delegates erupted in protest. The Sovereign Mind's representative, an energy being that manifested as a glowing pattern in the air, pulsed with agitation. The principle is what matters. If we allow humanity to dictate terms through military force, we set a dangerous precedent. Every aggressive species will believe they can achieve their goals through violence. The Vrex already set that precedent when they destroyed Proxima Station, the Thelon representative countered. Or does violence only count when primitive species do it? In the back channels, away from official council proceedings, other conversations were happening. The Crick Swarm, an aggressive insectoid species that controlled 20 systems, held a private conference among their hive minds. They had been planning their own expansion into human territory for years, quietly building fleet strength and waiting for the right moment to strike. That plan was now being completely reconsidered. The humans fight with disturbing efficiency. Hive mind Tertius communicated to the others. Their tactical adaptability exceeds our projections by significant margins. Their technology is more advanced than intelligence suggested. Most concerning is their psychological warfare. Hive mind Secundus agreed. They do not seek glory or honor. They seek results. This makes them unpredictable and therefore dangerous. Recommendation: abandon expansion plans into human space. Maintain defensive posture. Seek trade relationship instead of conflict. It was a radical reversal for a species that had built its civilization on conquest. But the Cricks were pragmatic. The images of burning Vrex shipyards and disabled battleships made the calculation clear. Fighting humanity would be expensive, possibly ruinous. Better to find accommodation. Similar reassessments were occurring throughout the galaxy. Intelligence agencies from 24 species had mobilized their assets to gather information about Earth's hidden capabilities. What they discovered alarmed them. The human shipyards weren't just in the Sol system. They had facilities hidden in asteroid belts throughout their territory. Their manufacturing capacity was at least triple what they had openly declared. Their research programs had been systematically reverse engineering and improving upon every alien technology they encountered. Most disturbing was the realization that Earth had been planning for conflict from the day they achieved FTL travel. While the Council had dismissed humans as lucky primitives, humanity had been preparing for the possibility that the galaxy might not welcome them peacefully. Every trade agreement had been used to acquire technical knowledge. Every diplomatic exchange had been an intelligence-gathering operation. 80 years of careful preparation had built a war machine that could challenge any Council species. Ambassador Chen received a private communication request from the Thelon Collective. She accepted, curious what the peaceful traders wanted. The Thelon representative appeared on her screen, its bioluminescent patterns pulsing with meaning. Ambassador Chen, my collective wishes to extend an offer of alliance, the Thelon said directly. We have observed humanity's conduct during this conflict. You have shown restraint in avoiding civilian casualties. You have focused on military targets. You have demonstrated both capability and responsibility. These are qualities the Thelon value. Chen was surprised but maintained her diplomatic composure. The Thelon Collective has been a council member for 8,000 years. Why would you risk that status by allying with humanity? Because the council is broken, the Thelon replied bluntly. We have watched for millennia as the powerful species do as they please, while the rest of us follow rules that protect the strong. The Vrex attacked your civilians without consequence until you forced consequences. This has shown us that the Council's justice exists only for those with power. If we must choose between a broken system and a species that fights for its people, we choose you. The offer was sincere, Chen realized. The Thelon weren't opportunists seeking advantage. They were genuinely reconsidering their position in galactic politics. I will convey your offer to my government. Earth values friendship with those who share our principles. But not everyone was seeking friendship. In another private session, the hardline faction of the Council was meeting. The Sovereign Minds had gathered representatives from 8 militant species who believed humanity needed to be contained by force. The Terra Defense Fleet numbers 300 ships, the Sovereign Minds representative stated. A coalition of our combined forces would field over 2,000 capital ships. The numerical advantage is overwhelming. The Vrex commander who had replaced the disgraced Zrathis, a younger warrior named Krethis, agreed eagerly. The Dominion is prepared to commit its remaining fleet to a coalition action. Human success has been based on surprise and unconventional tactics. Against a prepared, overwhelming force, they cannot prevail. A representative from the Drac Imperium, a militaristic mammalian species, was less certain. The humans have already demonstrated that numerical superiority is not decisive. They destroyed 40% of Vrek's military capability in 2 weeks. What makes you think they cannot do the same to a coalition? They were facing one species, the sovereign minds insisted. They used speed and surprise to hit multiple targets. Against a concentrated defensive formation, those tactics fail. We would establish a containment perimeter around human space. Any vessel attempting to leave would face overwhelming force. We would cut them off from resources and trade. Eventually, they would have no choice but to accept council authority. The discussion continued for hours, but a fundamental problem kept emerging. Every wargame simulation they ran showed the same result. Yes, a coalition could probably defeat humanity militarily, but the cost would be enormous. Casualty projections ran into the millions. Economic damage would exceed 50 trillion credits. The war would last years, possibly decades, and there was no guarantee that humanity wouldn't use even more devastating weapons if pushed to desperation somewhere. In the classified intelligence reports that circulated, among council leadership was a particularly disturbing assessment. Human scientific literature, carefully translated and analyzed, contained theoretical research on weapon systems that the council had never seriously considered. Antimatter bombs, kinetic kill vehicles traveling at significant fractions of light speed, biological weapons tailored to specific genetic markers, nanotech weapons that could disassemble matter at the molecular level. None of these weapons appeared to be deployed currently. But the research existed, the knowledge was there. If humanity felt sufficiently threatened, who knew what they might build? Wisdom Keeper Tharn called another full session. This time the debate was different. The reality of the situation had finally penetrated through layers of bureaucracy and pride. Humanity wasn't going to back down. The Vreks were losing badly. A coalition war would be catastrophic for everyone involved. Something had to change. This council has maintained peace for 10,000 years, Tharn began slowly. We have done so through careful diplomacy, respect for established order, and adherence to protocols that prevent escalation. Humanity has violated many of these protocols. But we must ask ourselves, did we give them any alternative? Murmurs of protest rippled through the chamber, but Tharn continued. The Vreks attacked a civilian installation without proper authorization. This council did nothing. We dismissed human protest. We laughed at their ultimatum. We treated them as children who needed to learn their place. And now we face a species that has proven it will not accept the place we assigned them. Commander Krethis rose angrily. The Dominion will not accept dictation from primitive species. Then the Dominion will continue to burn. Chen said coldly from the human podium. Every day this continues, we destroy more of your infrastructure. Every day you refuse our demands, we come closer to your homeworld. Pride is expensive, Commander. Can your people afford it? The Kalesh representative attempted mediation. Perhaps we can find middle ground. Earth wants reparations. The amount could be negotiated. Earth wants the Proxima region secured. Territory adjustments can be discussed. Earth wants war crimes trials. An international tribunal could be established. We stated our demands clearly, Chen replied. They are not negotiable. 206,000 humans died. The price for that is not subject to committee revision. 6 months had passed since the end of what galactic historians were already calling the Proxima War. The reconstruction of Proxima Station had begun, though it would take years to complete. In orbit around the ruins, a new structure had been built. Not a military installation or trading post, but a memorial. The Proxima Memorial Station was a ring of transparent aluminum and steel, rotating slowly in space where the original civilian station had died. Inside its structure, 206,000 lights glowed in the darkness, one for each person who had been killed in the Vreks attack. The memorial broadcast a message in every known galactic language, repeating endlessly into the void. Humanity remembers. Ambassador Chen stood in the observation deck of the memorial, looking out at the stars. Behind her, Admiral Okonkwo approached quietly, her dress uniform crisp and formal. The two women had spent months working together during the war, forging a friendship born of shared purpose. The council session begins in 2 hours, Okonkwo said. Are you ready? Chen nodded slowly. As ready as I can be. This is a different kind of battle, harder in some ways than the military campaign. Building peace always is, the Admiral replied. Any fool can start a war. It takes wisdom to build something lasting. The Galactic Council chambers had been reconfigured. The human podium, once positioned at the back among junior species, now stood in the inner circle alongside the most influential members. Earth's status had been formally elevated to full voting membership with veto power. It was a recognition that could not have been achieved through diplomacy alone. As Chen entered the chamber, she noted the changes in atmosphere. Where once there had been dismissive amusement when she spoke, now there was careful attention. Delegates who had ignored her now watched her closely. Fear and respect were uncomfortable companions, but they were better than contempt. Commander Creethy sat at the Vrex podium, his scales still showing the stress marks of the past months. His government had paid the required reparations, though it had nearly bankrupted them. 3 Vrex colony worlds chosen by Earth were now under human administration as war indemnity. Crethus himself had been demoted. His military career effectively ended. The fleet commanders who had attacked Proxima Station were awaiting trial in human custody. The Dominion still existed, but it was a shadow of its former power. They had learned an expensive lesson about the cost of underestimating opponents. Wisdom Keeper Tharn called the session to order. We gather today to formalize the new arrangements that have emerged from recent events. Ambassador Chen, Earth has requested several changes to Council structure and procedure. Please present your proposals. Chen activated her podium display. Earth proposes a comprehensive reform of Council military protocols. The current system, which allows senior species to act with minimal oversight, has proven inadequate. We propose an independent military tribunal to review all interspecies conflicts before military action is authorized. Protests erupted from several delegates, but Chen continued calmly. Additionally, we propose equal voting rights for all species regardless of how long they have been council members. The current tiered system creates classes of citizenship that invite abuse. All species should have equal voice in council decisions. The Sovereign Mind's representative pulsed with agitation. These proposals would fundamentally alter council structure. They would eliminate the authority that senior species have earned through millennia of service. They would eliminate the authority that senior species have abused, Chen corrected. The Proxima attack happened because the Vrex believed they could act without consequence. That belief came from a system that privileges age over justice. Earth will not accept a return to that system. The Thelon Collective representative spoke in support. The Thelon Collective endorses Earth's proposals. We have long believed that the Council's tiered structure created inequality. We support reform. To Chen's surprise, several other species voiced agreement. The war had shaken the galaxy's confidence in the old order. Species that had quietly resented the dominance of senior members now saw an opportunity for change. The debate lasted for hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. Humanity had proven it could enforce its will militarily if necessary. Better to accept reforms than face another conflict. The vote passed with significant support, but Chen's most important work was happening outside the formal sessions. In private meetings, she was building relationships with species that shared human values or interests. The alliance with the Thelon Collective had grown into something substantial, with joint trade agreements and cultural exchanges already underway. 3 other species had approached Earth seeking similar relationships. In her private office aboard Nexus Prime, Chen met with a representative from the Crick swarm. The insectoid being seemed nervous, its antennae twitching constantly. The Cricks had been among humanity's most likely enemies before the war. Now they were seeking accommodation. The swarm wishes to establish formal diplomatic relations, the Crick's representative communicated through its translation device. We acknowledge previous intentions toward human territory were inadvisable. We propose mutual defense pact and technology sharing agreement. Chen studied the insectoid carefully. Why should Earth trust the Cricks? Your species has conquered a dozen others. Your culture values expansion through force. Because humans have demonstrated superior military capacity, the Cricks replied, with surprising honesty. Conflict with Earth would be costly and uncertain. Cooperation with Earth offers mutual benefit. The swarm adapts to reality. Current reality is that humans are too dangerous to fight and too valuable as allies to ignore. It was brutally pragmatic, but Chen appreciated the honesty. Earth will consider your proposal. We will need guarantees regarding your intentions toward human colonies and our trade partners. Acceptable, the Creeks agreed. The swarm understands that human friendship requires trustworthy behavior. We will provide guarantees. After the Creeks departed, Chen allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Earth was building a coalition of species that would make future conflicts less likely. Not through dominance, but through shared interests and mutual respect. Admiral Okonkwo was managing the military transition. The Terra Defense Fleet remained at high readiness, but Earth was also working to establish more transparent military protocols with other species. Joint training exercises with the Theln, technology sharing agreements with peaceful species, defensive pacts that made clear the cost of attacking Earth or its allies. On Mars, in a secure military facility, Okonkwo addressed a gathering of her senior officers. We proved we can fight. Now we need to prove we can coexist. The fleet will maintain readiness, but our primary mission going forward is deterrence, not destruction. We show strength so we don't have to use it. Captain Marcus Rivera, freshly promoted for his actions during the war, asked the question many were thinking. Admiral, what if someone tests us again? What if another species decides to try what the Vrex tried? Okonkwo's expression was hard. Then we respond the same way we responded to the Vrex. Quickly, decisively, and overwhelmingly. But we also make that response less likely by building relationships, maintaining transparency, and ensuring everyone understands the cost of aggression. Peace through strength, Captain. It's an old human concept, but it works. In the 3 Vrex colony worlds now under human administration, a different kind of challenge was unfolding. Earth had to demonstrate that it could govern fairly and justly, not simply conquer and exploit. Human administrators worked alongside Vrex civilians to maintain services and infrastructure. There were tensions, certainly. Many Vrex resented human rule, but there was also growing appreciation for human fairness. Governor Lisa Morrison administered the largest of the transferred colonies, a world called Kepler Station 7. She walked through the main settlement, observing the mix of human and Vrex citizens going about their business. Children played in the parks, ignoring species differences with the ease of youth. Markets sold both human and Vrex goods. Schools taught both histories. It's working better than I expected, her Vrex deputy administrator Kreshta said quietly. She was from a civilian family that had opposed the military's aggressive policies. I feared humans would seek revenge. Morrison shook her head. Revenge would make us no better than those who attacked Proxima. We're here to prove that justice and vengeance are different things. Justice is what we demanded from the Virex government. Vengeance would be making innocent Vrex civilians pay for their military's crimes. Kreshta's scales showed the color pattern that indicated respect. You are wiser than our leaders were. Back on Earth, the political leadership was grappling with humanity's new role in galactic affairs. President Anderson addressed the United Nations, speaking to representatives from every nation and colony. We have achieved something remarkable, Anderson said. We have gone from dismissed newcomers to respected powers in less than a year. But with this respect comes responsibility. We must ensure that our military strength serves peaceful purposes. We must build alliances based on shared values, not fear. We must prove that humanity can be trusted with power. The speech was broadcast across human space and throughout the galaxy.